Hi, it's Marisa from bumblebeeapothecary.com. Today I'd like to show you how I make sauerkraut in a 5-gallon crock. I really like making sauerkraut in a crock because it's one of the fermented foods that we eat a lot of, and that way you can easily make a large batch at one time that will last you for quite a while. The larger of an amount of fermented food that you have, the longer it takes to ferment, and for some people, if you're on the GAPS diet and you have problems with histamines, then having a larger amount of fermented food that's gone for a long time is very helpful because it's going to have lower histamine levels, and that's very important for some people while they're healing. So let's jump right in and I'm going to show you how I make this. So before I started, I washed my crock and the weights, which I'll show you in a second, and the lid very well and let them dry, because you want to make sure everything's super clean when you're fermenting, especially when you're doing this large of a batch. It would be terrible to put this much work into it and then have it go bad. I also have another video that's all about different types of fermentation crocks, and it talks about why I'm using this one. So if you're interested, you can check that out and it'll be linked below. So to start, I'm just going to start shredding my cabbage. Now you can shred your cabbage by just cutting it finely, or you can use a food processor. I like using a food processor because it shreds it in very small pieces, which is nicer for eating and dishing up and things, and I like the texture of it better, but you can do whatever you like. So I'm just going to chunk these up into sizes that will fit easily into my food processor and then whiz it up in there. It's important to use organic cabbage when you're fermenting it. Oftentimes non-organic cabbage will mold, but I've never had a problem with organic cabbage molding. So I can usually fit about one whole head of cabbage at a time in my food processor. So then I'll just take each head of cabbage out. You'll have to figure out how much you want depending on the size of your crock. For this 5-gallon one that I have, I think it will hold about 12 cabbages, and I'm just doing 6 actually today because I didn't feel like that big of an undertaking, and plus it would make the video a million years long. So altogether I weighed my cabbages and I have about 15 pounds of them, and the correct ratio of salt to cabbage when you're using this large of a volume of cabbages is going to be 3 tablespoons of salt to 5 pounds of cabbages. So that'll be 9 tablespoons total of salt that I'm going to use. So the salt that I'm using is a high quality mineral salt. It's this Celtic sea salt. I really like this one. It's got lots of healthy minerals in it. I'll put a link below where you can find it if you're interested. So I'm going to start by adding some salt to each bowl of cabbage. So I'll just add a tablespoon at a time to each head, and then I'll add the remaining salt that I need at the end. And then I'm going to pound it some. I'm not going to go crazy because that's just, you know, we're keeping this doable, but I'm going to pound it some before I add it to the crock. Of course, how much you pound and kind of all the details to the process are really up to you. I'm just, you know, I have limited time to get this done, so I'm just going to pound a little bit and then I'm going to add it to my crock. And then I'm just going to repeat that process until I have all of my cabbages in the crock. Alright, so I have shredded all of those cabbages and put them all into my 5-gallon crock. And now, since there were 6 of them, I did 6 tablespoons and I need 3 more tablespoons. So I'm just going to go ahead and add those extra 3 tablespoons now, so that we have our 9 total. And then now that it is in the crock, I am going to kind of pound it down a bit. That'll just kind of help pack it into the crock. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my weights in. So I washed these and let them air dry so that they're very clean. And so I'll just put these in, and then I'm going to press them down as much as I can just so it's nice and packed in there. Okay, and then you want the sauerkraut to stay submerged, so I'm going to add some filtered water so that it's all underwater. Then I'm just gonna use something to kind of wipe away the extra sauerkraut that spilled around the rim so that it's not sitting there and molding or anything. Just want this area nice and cleaned up. And then the nice thing about this crock is that it has this water seal. So it has this little ridge around the top, and you pour some water in and you put the lid on, and then that seal prevents any air from getting in. So you do have to check on it once in a while and make sure that the water hasn't evaporated, add more as needed. But that's going to really cut down on the risk of it molding or getting that calm yeast, the white stuff on the surface. So then you just let it sit in here in a warmish, room temperature place for 6 weeks. It can even go longer if you want it to. And then after that, I like to dish it out or scoop it out into half-gallon sized jars, and then keep one up in our refrigerator for us to eat out of, and then the rest of them I keep down in the basement where it tends to stay cooler. So there is the whole process of making sauerkraut in a 5-gallon crock. If you'd like to make a smaller amount of sauerkraut, or maybe you just don't have a crock yet, I have another video where I show you the whole process of making sauerkraut in a half-gallon jar, and that's a really great way to get started. I'll have that video linked below. Be sure and check out the other fermentation videos that I have where I talk about lids and different kinds of crocks and other recipes for fermented foods. I'll have some of those linked below. I'll also have some links below to some of the equipment that I use here to make this, as well as the salt I'm using. I'll also have a link below to my blog post with a printable recipe card if you want to grab that. Also check out that description box for free ebooks and other free goodies. Okay, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with anybody else who you think might want to learn how to make sauerkraut in a crock, or even just watch the process, even if you don't want to do it yourself. Here on my channel, I show you how to make nourishing recipes for nutrient-dense food, natural remedies, and DIY skincare and home products. So if those are something that you're interested in and you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I get out 2 videos every week. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.